WL Sports, where we review all the best sports clips from around the country. Now, you're probably wondering, why should I watch over here instead of over there? Because over there, they don't care about what you have to say. They say this all the time. They talk down to us, and they say that we're just a bunch of clowns on YouTube, Twitter. But I think it's the opposite. I think we know exactly what we're talking about. So if you think what I'm saying is the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard, let me know in the comments below. If you think what I'm saying is the most amazing thing, then definitely please let me know. Either way, let's get into some discussions. Let's get into some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and it's turning into something truly, truly special, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of, and I think we're well on our way to doing it. So without further ado, let's get to it. Watching a clip of first things first, whether or not the 49ers are on upset alert. I've talked extensively about the 49ers and Brock Purdy and all of that. I think technically they're on upset alert, like however we want to define that. I'm not telling you I'm predicting it. I want to see if Debo is end up playing or whatnot. But I think the Detroit has a true chance at winning this game. I think this game goes one of two ways. I think Detroit either wins a close game or the 49ers blow out Detroit. That's what I think. But let's see what they have to say.
Greg, are the 49ers on upset alert?
Of course. Absolutely. Without doubt, without question, they are on upset alert. When we watch what they put on tape against the Green Bay Packers in the divisional round, the Detroit Lions, if they play that way, I'm not saying that they even will, can go in there and beat the 49ers. Look, Detroit, I think the margin of error for Detroit is a lot less than it is for the 49ers. I don't think Detroit can go in there and blow them out by any means or by any stretch. But when you look at offense versus their defense, Detroit Lions can pose problems. They will not allow them to just get after the quarterback. They have a great offensive line. They have weapons around them. They can definitely run the ball the way that Green Bay was able to run the ball. Offensively, for the 49ers, they pose problems for Detroit in the passing game. We've talked to that ad nauseum, but up front running the ball, they can stop the run. If Detroit can stop the run and force is he awesome or not awesome quarterback?
Awesome. How about that? He's
playing awesome quarterback. If he forces them to throw the ball and he doesn't have success, absolutely, Detroit can go in there.
They're not. I mean, this is a tough game. Like I'm not writing off. I mean, I think San Francisco wins clearly, but they're not on as much upset alert as the Ravens. The Chiefs have obviously a good chance against the Ravens. But this isn't like Niners Green Bay. We're going into that game, it's like, no, they're beating the Packers. Like, I think the Niners are clearly the better team, but they're going to have.
I think the Packers may have been better than Detroit. And so if that's the way you feel, like the Packers should have beat the 49ers. They just should have. The Packers lost that game way more, and it's not even close, way more than the 49ers won that game. And so I would say, put it this way, I would say that the Packers proved that they have a higher ceiling than, say, like Detroit, even though obviously Detroit has now gotten further than them, but their potential has a higher ceiling. And so it's kind of sad that they weren't able to pull that off. But they were the youngest team, ever to do what they've done. So that can't go without saying. But I would say the Detroit is a tricky team to evaluate because they have some amazing players, some great players. They're very complete, but they don't have the names that make you say, whoa, right? Like that. And that's what the 49ers have going for them, right? Christian McCaffrey, Kittle, Ayuk, Debo, right? Like these are dudes, these are names, these are the people that when you're playing Madden or something, like that's who you want to play with, right? And like the Detroit Lions don't really have that. The Detroit Lions have a lot of players that a casual fan probably really can't name, except for maybe if you watched Hard Knocks, which I think was last year, right, with the Hard Knocks. And so I think that's part of the problem. And I forget who said this, but someone pointed this out that was, I thought was pretty smart, because they said when Campbell the coach for Detroit goes for it, they're just like, oh, he's gambling, he's, being aggressive and this or that. But when Shanahan goes for it, or, I don't know, Matt LaFleur goes for it, they're using analytics, right? And I get that because, Dan Campbell's this most likely on some extra supplements. Let's just call it testosterone replacement therapy. He's a big monster, okay? And that's his, that's who he is. And so I get that's just the vibes he puts out. But apparently he's a lot more than that. I've never met the guy, so I don't know. But people love him, and he seems awesome, and he's someone that you want to play for because he seems very real and authentic, which as a player you can absolutely appreciate. As a fan base, you can appreciate. You feel like you're getting it real from him. But at the same time, he's not the most well-spoken person, like articulate in that regard. So sometimes he just said, and he says he loves the platitudes, right? He loves the coach speak and stuff like that. So that just comes off as less intelligent. I'm not saying he's less intelligent. Not at all. It can come off that way, especially when you have a more buttoned up, cerebral, speaking type head coach like, say, a Shanahan, LaFleur, McVay, these types of people. And that's actually kind of what makes McVay a hybrid, because McVay is kind of like, alpha and fit and stuff like that, but also known to be super intellectual and stuff like that. But I think that's what then makes Detroit a little bit harder, because no one looks at Detroit as saying, well, they can come up with a game plan and out coach or out scheme the 49ers. Not saying they can't, but people aren't thinking that, right? When you're kind of comparing the 49ers versus Detroit, you're like, oh, Shanahan's going to get something cooking on that team, right? Like, you're like, oh yeah, you just trust the game plan in a lot of ways. And so I think that's part of the thing. And again, I wouldn't say that Detroit looked so great against Tampa Bay. They didn't look bad. They had some moments that were awesome and great. I think Detroit clearly showed that they were the superior team against Tampa Bay. I do believe that. But at the same time, I would have thought that Detroit should have or could have beaten Tampa Bay like the Packers, not beat the Cowboys exactly, right? Because that was like a historic blowout, but more of like, yep, you're nothing here. Lamar Jackson and the Ravens versus the Houston Texans. And it wasn't like that. There was a time that technically the Tampa Bay could win that game. And so that's what then made me then kind of pull back a little bit on Detroit. But I think Detroit's ready for this moment. They're excited for this moment. And I'm curious to see how Purdy handles it, because I know Purdy feels this pressure right now. Purdy does not feel good about this game, and I'm gonna play the rest, and then I'm gonna talk more about Purdy in this game.
Have to win this game. They're gonna have to, they got to take them seriously. And you're right. If Detroit stops the run, then it gets interesting. Yeah. I'm not convinced they will, but if they do, that's when it really gets interesting. And you're right. They have a great run defense.
I'm just curious, just for the table. We can start with Brew maybe. Aside from offensive line, is there any spot where that you think the Lions are better than the Niners? Like any spot,
not better. Look, what I'll say, defense, no. They can't play with them defensively.
Trying to say quarterback.
The run game, while McCaffrey's the best running back, they got a nice two-headed monster.
So you think the Lions have the better running?
Not better, but they have a good. They have good. See, I don't break down football like that by who's the better quarterback, who's the better coach, who's the better offensive line. No, I don't do that. But you can do that from your side of the table. I don't do that from my side of the table, because every time the best quarterback and best coach play, they don't win.
Of course. I'm just curious, but
because Dak Prescott, I think, is better than Jordan Love.
I don't know about that.
So,
well, you said he was MVP.
Yeah, exactly right. Just like you
Brock Purdy is playing.
He got him there. I think Love has the potential to be a better quarterback than Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott is just more of a seasoned vet right now, but Jordan Love definitely has a higher ceiling. But he totally that was a good win by Brew.
Yeah,
who has the best tight end? Because they're going to be essential in this game.
Kittle.
Okay, so you just broke it down.
Hold on. My point is this. I didn't say what Colin said.
No,
that's Colin's statement. Don't put that on me.
I'm just asking.
I'm saying San Francisco.
You just said you're going to break them down individually. And
you asked me one position.
I'm just asking who has the better quarterback.
They'll do tight ends.
I got Brock Purdy.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe.
Brock Purdy better than Jared Goff? That's an interesting question and debate, which I'm not going to have right now. But I would say to me, actually, the biggest question mark going into this game, outside of any of the stuff that was already addressed, is indeed the one and only Brock Purdy. I can guarantee you, Brock Purdy does not feel good going into this game because he does not feel good leaving the last game. He does not feel good about that game. I know he led the game-winning drive and all of that. I get it. But he does not feel confident. He does not feel good. He knows he escaped death. He knows it, okay? And I used this analogy the other day, but I think it's relevant. Just driving on the freeway, and some guy swerves across you, and you almost get hit, and you have to step on the brakes and kind of jerk, to the left or right or whatever. And in that instance, it's like, oh my God, that could have been a disaster. That could have been a 10-car pileup, and see you goodbye, see you never, right? But you survive it. And your heart is still racing, and the next time you get in the car, you're still kind of like thinking about it. And so it's just still on your mind. You're still just kind of thinking about it. If any of you have never really had that type of experience, then you're lucky. But I've had a couple close calls that you're just like, oh my God, like I would not be here right now, and it's horrifying. It's scary. And it still randomly pops in your head. And so that's how Purdy feels. Purdy does not feel elite right now. Purdy does not feel amazing. Purdy knows some of the throws that he's made should have been intercepted. He knows that some of the throws that were caught could have easily not been caught. He knows that. He's not an idiot. I think Purdy's probably really, really, really smart. I mean, so and I think he's very humble in that regard and doesn't think that he's, the man and just going to go in there and win. That was kind of my problem with Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield thought that he was just going to walk into the NFL and just be like, this is what I do, let's go, and it was like, well, you got punched in the face. How did that work out for you? And so Purdy doesn't have that, which makes me respect Purdy a lot more. So I know Purdy's going into this game not feeling amazing. Okay, it's more like the self-talk of like, you got this, come on, you got this, we're good, we got this. But you have to kind of keep convincing yourself, right? You have to keep saying it, because the moment you stop saying it, it starts to creep into your mind. The benefit is that he's at home now, so it's not like he has to go on the road, which would have definitely probably potentially got more into his head in that regard. And the weather is apparently supposed to be fine, so that's also good. And again, maybe the weather really, and the rain specifically, really does mess up Purdy, and I'm open to that. And I would say that's actually okay. I wouldn't even really ding him for that. If that's the physical limitation of him because of his hand size or whatever, then whatever. It's rain games aren't the most frequent thing that happens in football, so that's the biggest issue you have to worry about with Purdy, and that's what makes him look worse than he is, then whatever, you'll navigate it. But outside of that, I think the way how Purdy starts is going to be crucial. It's going to be so big, because if the 49ers start with the ball and Brock Purdy goes 3 and out, or I don't know, even just the drive stalls, right? He throws a couple throws, into the dirt, into the grass, or overhead someone. I just think those thoughts start to creep. You start to be like, oh, he hasn't really been playing well these last, couple games. Outside of the one drive, he hasn't been playing too well, right? If it goes into half and the score is 10-9 or something, you're just like, I don't know, you're just not feeling great. And the players feel it too. The players will start to feel it. They'll start to be like, I don't, what's going on with Purdy? What's up? Can he handle this moment? Because Kittle knows he can handle the moment. Ayuk knows he can handle the moment. Debo knows he can handle the moment, themselves, that is, not Purdy. They don't have undeniable, unquestionable confidence in Brock Purdy. They just don't. I know they don't, because they've never really experienced it, okay? They haven't really gotten to that level. You only have that undeniable confidence in someone when they've truly proven it to you. And that's not a knock at Purdy. Purdy hasn't necessarily been given the opportunity to truly prove it, except for right now. Can he truly ball out? Can he make great throws when needed, or just throughout the game as a whole? Because again, when you're on that offense and you see that a couple passes could have easily been intercepted, if you're Kittle or Debo or Ayuk or Shanahan, their heart is also racing real fast, with the same analogy of almost getting hit by a car. They know that was lucky. You can't fool these players. They know, right? You can fool fans apparently, because fans want to act like that was not a thing, but they know on the field. They know. They are not dumb. They know exactly what's going on better than any of us. And so I think the way this game starts, right, if the 49ers start with the ball and they have a pretty good drive and Purdy goes, I don't know, again, just making up numbers here, 6 for 7 or whatever, and, even if it's just a field goal, that's still a success. It's like, okay, he's settled in, playing well, making good throws, getting settled. I think that'll go a long way. But, if the drive stalls out at the 40 and they have to punt it, or 3 and out, if it's a 3 and out, like, you're going to start to be like, oh, what's going on here? And it will. Everyone will be uneasy. The stands will be uneasy, and it can happen so quickly. But the real big thing is then what does Detroit do with that moment? Can they capitalize? Can they snowball that moment? Can they now go and score? If the 49ers only score a field goal in the opening drive, can Detroit go ahead and score a touchdown? And then that's when things start to kind of stack a little bit more on Brock Purdy, because it's like, look what Goff just did. Look what Detroit just did. They scored a touchdown, and we could only get to the 50, to the 30 and, kick a field goal. I think that stuff piles up. I really like to look at things from the psychological side of stuff, especially these younger players, because it's such a bigger variable for the first, I don't even know, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, depending on depending on what levels of success you've already obtained within those years. And so, again, Purdy literally admitted to watching, old playoff games of Patrick Mahomes and stuff, just to try to get into the mentality, to see what people like Mahomes is doing and stuff like that. And that, to me, shows you his lack of confidence. And again, I'm going to emphasize this again and again. That's okay. And it's smart for Purdy to do that. He's looking at someone who has proven to be elite and great, to be like, well, what do you do? Let me see what you do. But again, Patrick Mahomes is not watching footage of, tape of Brock Purdy. Patrick Mahomes isn't going into a game saying, let me look up, what does Tom Brady do in this situation? He's like, what does Patrick Mahomes do in this situation? Because I'm Patrick Mahomes, and that's all I care about. That's the difference. That is the difference, and it's by Brock Purdy's own admission. So if anyone wants to argue that, well, then you're arguing against the actual guy himself. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. But what do you all think? Would love to hear your thoughts on this one. Let me know in the comments below. Do you think the 49ers are on upset alert? Do you think Brock Purdy is just going to come out and show out and just be amazing? Would love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please don't forget to subscribe. We are building an amazing community here, and I would love to see you part of it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really helps with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.